Tarot's Buddies! Hi, everybody! We've got a guest today. So I'm boring. You see me all the time. I'm Lisa Penrose, but who's our special guest over here?
It's me, Friday. Friday from Friday Afternoon Tea, and I am visiting my dear friend Lisa for some witchy crafts on Tarot Tuesday.
Here in our little digital Glen. If you are new to Tarot Tuesday, then this every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, we just chit chat about tarot. It sounds like they say Friday is a little bit quiet. Let me turn her sound
More
up.
louder. I don't
There
know
we
if I can
go.
turn my
Let me know
sound
how
up.
that sounds, Dame Hex. But yeah, so Tarot Tuesday. I wouldn't say necessarily a tarot novice, but I'm far from a tarot master. And so throughout the week, I do a workbook called Intuitive Tarot. And then I talk about those lessons and what I've learned with my personal tarot deck here with all of you. And then at 7 o'clock Pacific time, I toss over to Friday.
I know, I love it. We've got a little friendship programming block every Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
So if you want to get your witch on, Tuesdays are a good
Yes.
time to do that. Um,
Yes.
but today, oh gosh, you've one or two tarots. Do you want to
One or
tell
two.
people a little bit about what tea and tarot is?
Yeah, Tea and Tarot Tuesday over on our channel is it's less of a mutual education kind of a chat like yours, which I love about yours that it's about conversation and community and learning all together. I think that's so valuable. Over on ours, it's a little more vain, and it's where we have people come over and we chat a bit, just kind of about what's been speaking to us that week. If there's anything new and exciting in our tarot practice. Here comes the dog. He's inserting himself. This is Bergamot, Bergie to Durkee. And then we do what we call a pick a deck, where we'll put out a number of different decks, whatever is kind of intuitively speaking to us, anywhere between 2 and 5 different decks, and say, okay, these are decks 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick which one is speaking to you, and then we do a read, and we say, this is your read if you picked that deck. And this is kind of a fun little reading for other people and joking around and goofing off and drinking tea, and occasionally we'll bring out other forms of divination as well. So last week I did teach a little tea leaf reading class, and that was really fun. Before, I've been known to bring out the rabbit bones that I like to read and do a reading with rabbit bones as well. Yeah, so we just kind of do whatever we feel like.
Dame Hacks. Oh, well, we've got a few folks following. The Crafting Muse. Hey, V. Thanks for joining and following. Wiley Coyote, thanks for following. Dame Hacks says that last week on Tea and Tarot, we learned about BDSM tea pets. And Secretly Grander says Spanky is a gift. You left that out.
Yeah, no, I brought out my little tea pets and introduced them to everybody. And tea pets are fantastic. They're a way of sharing your tea with a tiny little household avatar who sits there and is your friend. And their purpose is to be cute, which is a very nice tea time thing. And I do have one that is a BDSM tea pet, and its name is Spanky. And it's a little bowing person with their little butt up in the air. And the butt is the only part of them that's glazed, and it's red glazed.
Oh my gosh.
The original design name for that the potters gave it, it's called Please. But I renamed it Spanky.
That's awesome. Yeah, just unfortunately we're dealing with some technical issues, so we're giving Friday a break with these captions. So we've got half the captions. Thanks for being patient with us, everybody. Oh my gosh, Bergamot's being really cute. I have 2 little D&D tea pets from your shop. I wish that I brought them, but they're still packed in a box, and I don't know where because I packed them in I guess I'll find out when I find the ball of bubble wrap, because I really, really, really didn't want a beholder eye stalk to fall off. But one is a little eye monster, we'll say, and one is a little Otiug. I actually like the Otiug even better. He's so cute with his big happy mouth.
Yeah, I love those ones. I was talking with the artist of those tea pets today, because we're exclusively carrying those little beholder and kind of D&D monstery little tea pets, and they are made with Yixing clay, the proper classic Chinese tea pet clay. And the artist said that right now it's just almost impossible to import the stuff. And so they're taking a little break from making them. So we have coming into our shop soon one beholder, a single beholder. So everyone's gonna have to fight for
Oh
it.
my gosh,
But
that fear of missing out.
we're also getting 4 penguins.
Penguins! Oh, cute. So speaking of tea, I am drinking lavender Earl Grey, which was perfectly steeped the last cup. And as I'm pouring it, I already know I oversteeped this by like a lot. That's fine. Get those tannins in there.
I've got a decaf Earl Grey from a small farm in South India that is just so like, it's really minerally earthy, comforting. It's just very simple and it doesn't give me a buzz, so I can just drink gallons of it.
This is actually, I thought I oversteeped it because it's really, really dark, but it's actually not too tanniny. It's just extremely floral.
Yeah, lavender is not shy.
So today, we're actually taking a break from our deep dive into the tarot cards. I will say next week, where you're going to get so much tarot, because I looked at the upcoming lessons and the next days are like, learn about the Suit of Cups, learn about the Suit of Swords. It's like all the minor arcana. So the next week, we're going to talk about everything minor arcana you can think of. But this week, Friday and I were talking about a craft that Friday's family does in our witchy Discord. And we decided we would just have a fun, casual, gentle craft time.
Yes, I love it.
So I had described, based on your description of these, I'd likened these to summer camp when you do those crafts with like popsicle sticks and you make like a little cross and you weave yarn through it. And usually they're called God's Eyes. This is kind of like what that is, but then like leveled up. How about you explain it, actually? What am I doing?
You're right on. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly like the summer camp God's Eyes, but leveled up. So it's, you can take popsicle sticks or skewers or any kind of sticks. My family will focus on, because my father's family is all like Irish Druidic pagan for generations and generations back. And for Irish Druidic paganism, different kinds of woods have a lot of different meanings. So, and I'm not as well versed on that as I wish I was. I can't remember. I learned it all when I was like 5, and I don't know. But there are different ones, like Hollywood is super good for some kind of energy. And clearly, I'm totally ready for this.
The Hollywood is the one that I know because
Good.
we have a bunch of holly trees in our yard. There's one big mama who we might leave, but then there's a lot of like little baby holly trees that are spread just all the heck over the place. I think they just started sprouting and no one ever pulled them up. And so we are getting rid of the random holly trees. Some people think that's bad luck, so knock on wood. But I looked it up, and holly is a very protective and purifying wood. And yeah, meant for like cleansing and such. Yeah, Dusty's in chat. So much holly. There's holly everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love holly. Holly is good stuff. We worked a lot with cedar when I was a kid. We have cedar and live oak out there in Central California, just everywhere. But tonight I'm actually working with marigold stems. I had some big chunky marigolds out in my yard, and they had already kind of deadheaded themselves. They'd gone black and all that, and some of the heads fell off, and some I managed to clip and dry. But marigold is a flower that the other side of my family uses for Dia de los Muertos, for Mexican Day of the Dead ritual, and I wanted to make one as a talisman tonight to put on my ofrenda when it gets to be Dia. So I'm actually crossing my cultures here and taking a practice I learned from my dad's Irish Druidic family and using it to apply to my mom's Mexican side of things. But yeah, so I've got a handful of marigold stems. They smell so good, and they're still wet. I just cut these, but they'll dry when they're hanging. So it's fine, especially when they're nice and like porous and fibrous like this. They'll dry totally fine on the wall. So what we do is we pick different colors of yarn and different kinds of wood or plant matter that correspond that'll hold up for a nice firm frame. And I've got some white cord here, and I also have this gorgeous, like kind of lush emerald green yarn that I picked up thinking I was going to make socks, but I'm not learning how to make socks. I'm not going to. So I'm going to use it for this. I also really like to weave different herbs in, because this one that I'm making is for Dia de Muertos. I'm using my marigold stem as sort of like the flower that symbolizes death and the passage between realms. But I'm also going to weave rosemary, fresh rosemary into it, because rosemary is for remembrance. And so I'm going to take these two together. And I don't have any yellow yarn on me, but I've got this beautiful green and this beautiful white, and I think I can make a really cool pattern out of it. And I also brought some rosemary oil for anointing the ends, which is a thing we like to do just as an extra kind of, it's like turning your line segment into a line, energetically speaking. So where it ends isn't actually where it ends. We like to put a little oil on the tips as sort of an energy beacon to make it go extra.
I love that. I have essential oils somewhere. I thought they were on the shelf behind me, but I can't find them, so I must have moved them. But now I definitely want. Oh, okay, thank you. Dame Hex asks a great question in chat. So for folks who are crafting along with us, well, if you are just tuning in and you're like, oh, I didn't know about the craft, go grab 2 sticks. They could be pencils, they could be popsicle sticks, Chinese takeout chopsticks, and some string, and that's really all you need to get started and craft along with us. But tell us if you brought materials with you, if there's a particular wood or stem that you brought on purpose. Let us know what that intention was, and also what colors you're bringing, if they're just to be beautiful and pretty, or if they stand for something for you. Secretly Grander says, I have black yarn at hand at the moment, but I have an entire tote bag full of colors I can grab after. I am also, so I wanted to weave something using wood from my yard to make a sort of protective talisman for my new house, and something, at least in candle magic, that I associate with protection is black. So I'm like on brand, and I got from the Halloween section of the craft store black twine. I was very excited.
Excellent. Everyone's talking about the craft store Halloween selection, and I haven't made it out of my neighborhood.
Michael's is dangerous this year. It's always a little bit dangerous, but it's really dangerous this year. Yeah, so I walked into Michael's, and the first thing I see are all of these like tarot planchettes and like beautiful like retro, like almost like bohemian sort of skull patterns and eyeballs on everything, and I love eyeball decor. And I was like, oh no, this is my everyday decor. And then I turn around the corner and it's like bright orange and black, like retro Halloween imagery. And I'm like, oh no, this is my Halloween decor. Yeah, it was bad, but it was a fun way to start my vacation.
That's so awesome. I'm glad that you're taking your vacation. That's so nice.
Oh yeah. I was definitely feeling like burnt out, and even just these 2 days on top of the weekend, like a little long weekend so far, has been just the best. Let's see.
That's so good.
Folks in chat. Yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
I'm getting to craft stuff, but I wanted to tell you why. I took out my cards because you said Ouija planchette, which I think, I mean, you said tarot planchette, which I took to me.
That is what I meant. Yeah.
And it reminded me, Lysa, of a card that is in my new tarot deck that involves Ouija. And I had to show you this because it is so good. The Hierophant in this new deck I just acquired that I'm obsessed with, the Santa Muerte tarot. The Hierophant.
Oh, hey! That's so cool. Yeah.
It's totally doing a Ouija thing. And I love it.
That's kind of perfect for that card, honestly.
Totally.
Dusty's in chat says, what? I love that. Rin in chat, or Dame Hex, says, I have driftwood from the bay. Those 3 yarn colors, tweed, lace, ribbon, and then I also brought a crow feather. Ooh, I should have grabbed my feathers upstairs. And some shells that I might not use, but my hot glue gun is ready just in case. Your girl also is prepared with a hot glue gun.
Very good. Very good.
So what I decided to use is I got anxious and I like prepped 3 different things. Anxious is the wrong word. It's more positive than that. I was like eagerly anticipating craft time. And I cut up and shaved a bunch of holly sticks, but I think because it was like the sun was so bright, I set them in the sun to dry, and I think it dried too quickly because they've all sort of cracked. I'd intended them to be used to craft more wands, but I don't feel like I could use them for that. So now they're going to be a bunch of little mandala spells. But then I found this like cool, I guess this way, is like a Y-shaped stick. And I realized I could do like a fun little weaving with that. It's almost sort of like a pentacle, like a rough pentacle.
Is there moss and amethyst in the middle of that?
Yeah. So I originally wire wrapped the sticks together with copper wire. And then it made this like triangle shape in the middle. And I was like, oh, I have an amethyst exactly that shape. So I attached that and then I decorated it with some moss.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. On my own channel Friday.
That's it. You invited me to no take backsies.
Dusty, don't worry, we have more. I was very tempted to make one in the Blair Witch shape. That would be cool.
That's honestly what that kind of reminded me of, your little Y shape when it was facing with legs down. And I was like, that shape is so familiar to me. Yeah, I just twined mine together with this white cord. Mine is so lumpy and less composed than yours, and it's got pieces falling off already, and I actually feel like that's also very on brand.
Yeah, I was just thinking that expresses the two of us pretty well.
I think so. You're like 3 different ones, and they're very aesthetic, and they're all different shapes, and you like glued an amethyst here because it fit just so, and I'm like, I just cut these marigolds out of my yard and shoved them together and stuck some rosemary in there, and it's already falling apart a little bit. It smells super good. Like chaos farm witch over here.
Oh my gosh.
But, yeah, I just corded it together, just not even in any kind of a pattern. I just haphazardly tied that shit together and shoved a bunch of rosemary through it, and now that it's held, I can take my prettier green yarn, and my intent is to weave it on the marigold stem and decide where I want my rosemary to be wrapped in and where I want to leave it exposed. It's really sticking out there.
I was curious how you were incorporating your herbs. So I honestly picked up, I was originally going to use the rosemary and lavender from our yard, but those were a little sad until we recently replanted them, and I was like, I can't do that to them. I can't cut a sprig off of them right now. So I got a poultry blend. Rosemary and thyme, which also have protective meanings, so really good for this particular talisman I'm trying to make. And then sage apparently attracts wisdom and good luck. But it's also making me extremely hungry.
Well, culinary herbs classically have, so many magical associations. It's really not uncommon to, if you look back, particularly in a lot of like medieval midwifery and that kind of sort of text. If you look at like medieval, midwife research and see here are different kind of poultices and potions and things like that. It's a lot of basically soup, like delicious, savory culinary soup. And, it's just stuff that's easy and at hand and that you could safely have in your garden without anyone accusing you of being a witch because you're a homemaker and you got to feed your family, but actually secretly you're totally doing witchcraft with them in the middle of the night and like, healing your neighbors and all that. So yeah, not uncommon.
I feel like, I definitely feel like a witch when I'm making soup, and you're just like over the boiling pot, and you throw in, I always throw in a couple bay leaves, keeping me and Dusty in mind. My twine rolled off my desk. Okay, so I'm attaching a rosemary sprig there, and also trying to figure out like weaving in between the leaves. So that it'll still show and not be totally covered by the twine. But I've also got this sage, which is really soft, so I might weave it with the twine, maybe? See if
Maybe.
it'll
I mean,
like
that
that.
that tends to work better with the softer stemmed herbs. The woodier things, I'll typically either have them as part of the skeleton, or I'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of stick them in there afterwards, or I'll bundle them like I'm making a soup and throwing in a little herb bundle and let them dangle from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times when these are finished, you'll kind of attach a little finishing knot to it with a loop, and then you can just push pin it in the wall anywhere, or hang it
Oh.
from like an eye hook in the ceiling, or just anything that you like. So you can put
Okay.
them wherever you want to. They can lean in the windowsill, etc. And so it's kind of cool to have things dangling from them, because then you have like a talisman mobile.
Nice. Okay. An attempt is being made to make the sage weave. Oh, I should probably hold it higher so folks can see.
Yeah.
I'm just going to toss my twine on the floor. It can roll around like when you're knitting and you're trying to wrangle a yarn ball.
For sure. Yeah, so I'm weaving, and the way that we weave these is a very over under thing. So like once the yarn is secured in the middle, you go over one and then under the next, and over one and under the next, and it makes a really secure weave. And sometimes if you're really feeling it, you can wrap it around a couple times and it gives a little wind up.
Oh, you mean we should instruct on the craft we're doing? Oh my god, I hadn't even thought about that. What I'm doing, because if I did over under with these, because I have an odd number of spikes, it would kind of alternate going over and under on them, which would personally drive me, Lysa, up the wall. So I am going over to a spike and I'm going underneath it and then wrapping around it.
Mhm.
And then going to the next and going underneath and wrapping around again.
Yeah, I'm definitely going over under most of the time, and then here and there I'll switch my direction so that I have some rows that are, like a thick strand of rows that are going one way, and then a thick strand that are going the other way. You can weave them so they're like directly on top of each other, nicely stacked, or you actually can totally spread them out if you find a little way to work it back around. See, now this has got some space to it, and you can make a spider web.
Oh,
You can
that's
you can do
cool.
a design tight in here, and whenever you want to switch colors, you can just snip it and tie on the next color and keep going. But the way to do the spider web thing, sometimes I'll like to make a core of color mandalas and then switch to a spider web style and let it be a little looser on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But when you want to do a spider web, that wrapping around every branch is the key to that. So you'll kind of go around one and wrap it, and then go backwards, kind of the opposite of the direction that you're.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, does that make any sense? How do I say the thing that I'm doing? So I'm coming at it like from below, yeah, and then wrapping, and then going back up to the next one. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Whew. How do I use my words about this? Yeah, and you can do that to make them spread as close together or as far apart as you would like. And then, you can even go back and weave your yarn back in, like when you make a lattice pie crust, to
Mm-hmm.
make cool shapes in it, like Charlotte's Web. So you can
Mm.
weave in words or sigils or whatever. So if I were to complete one of these mandalas that has this spider web thing going on, then I can come back with, either just loose by hand or with a large needle or something, and I can stitch my alternate colored yarn through here and doing the same looping again, except instead of the stems on the yarn itself. And
Mm-hmm.
that way you can write sigils or words in it, which is neat.
That's cool as heck. I really like the spider webby look.
Yeah, it's nice. It's also a good Halloween craft. Last year at the tea shop, we did like a mad scientist science experiment trick or treat at the shop, but we also had a little station where people could come and weave their own spider webs out of yarn and popsicle sticks, and it was kind of the same technique. It was really fun. There were a lot of little kids, and they just loved it.
How is everyone's crafts going on at home? Oh no, secretly Grander got a splinter. Please
Oh
hold. Yeah, so I've wrapped my sage in, and I'm letting the leaves kind of be a
no!
little funky and spill all over the place.
That's so pretty. See, I don't even notice when I'm changing directions or going under where I was previously going over. I think you may be a more finessed crafter in general than I am, Lisa.
I'm being, yeah, it's just funny how our approaches are so different. I'm like very
Yeah.
conscientiously like, am I letting this sage leaf float and dangle, or am I trying to wrap this one tightly? Um, which
Yeah,
I
I
feel
just
like
go
just,
and go.
I feel like it just emphasizes that there's really no wrong way to do this
Mm-mm,
craft. It's
mm-mm.
kind of whatever feels right to you.
Yeah, I like that as a concept in any kind of magic practice at all. That's sort of my attitude about it. Is if it feels right to you and it clicks for you, then that is right for you, and that's just as valid as what's right for anybody else. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like my way of just total intuition chaos mess. As I get tangled in my own yarn here,
Mm-hmm.
is just what works for me, and your way of like taking your time and being really conscientious about what you're doing works for you, and I'm going to get a lot of really awesome like energy whatever I'm looking for from this my doing my approach, whereas if I were doing it in your approach or vice versa, then it might not feel totally in line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've been distracted by the fact that one of my strings is really loose, so now I'm going backwards to fix it. Sorry, just I guess just emphasizing the point you just made.
Yeah,
There we go.
I have no idea what any of my strings are doing anywhere on my mandala.
I guess
It's just kind of all part of one thing. I don't know.
for me, I guess it feels like being so intentional about every single thing is kind of what imbues my thoughts and intentions.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
For me, it's more channeling than imbuing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more I'm letting an energy flow through me, and it ends up however it ends up, and that's awesome, and I'll vibe with that.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly have my times and my areas where I lean more into your style of approach here of really taking my time and planning what I'm doing and being conscientious, and definitely I think the imbuing versus the channeling
Mm-hmm.
and the energy. There's some places where that feels better to me, and I lean into it then. But for the most part, I'm just running around, kind of doing whatever, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Some of these tiny sprigs of thyme are still flexible enough to be woven in. And so I'm finding if I want it to really um, like stick in the weaving, I'm like kind of twisting and overlapping the string with the oib.
Yeah, that's a good technique.
I'm gonna do that with
I
this one
got
too.
I've got just a whole mess of rosemary that's just so deeply woven in there, and it's just
Nice.
sticking out all over the place. It's like it fell down in the forest and got full of pine needles.
All right.
I don't know if anyone has switched their colors yet in the chat, like how many colors you're putting into your mandala. Because there's nothing wrong with doing just a color all through the whole thing. That can be super awesome if you're like focused on that kind of energy, that color aura, whatever of energy. But also it can be really awesome and powerful to do multiple colors. And I feel like general practice mandalas are by their nature layered. So it's almost like a chakra kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's different levels, different layers, doing different kinds of subtle aspects of the work.
Secretly Grander says, I made a mistake with 3 colors. My yarn is getting all tangled.
Oh no.
I'm trying to think if I
Like
have any tips for that. If you're looking for tips. I don't know if you might have better luck cutting and attaching the colors together. But if you're like switching constantly, that might be a pain in the butt to do.
I've just been snipping mine off on my little yarn ball and setting it aside, and then tying on my new yarn ball and not keeping them right next to each other. I'll also get tangled for sure. Oh, balance between being very purposeful but wanting it to be
Oh,
chaotic.
I know that struggle. Like
I
you
like the
want it to
idea of
feel like natural, but also I guess I'm very controlling when it comes to arts and crafts. So, as we've discovered,
My mother would call that organized chaos when it's
yeah.
like you have a plan, but you can like make a pattern for yourself where it feels like you're being chaotic, but you know that there's a pattern to your chaos,
Hmm.
if that makes any sense at all.
I think it does. It also reminds me of I used to do Chinese watercolor painting, and the goal of that, it's lots of like nature scenes, animals and landscapes and botanicals, and you're always trying to make it look like every stroke is so natural and effortless. Um,
Whoa.
but there's a lot of precision in that as well, because it's different than like oil painting. You can't go over a mistake. It's rice paper. And so, like, the exact amount of water and ink that you're holding in your brush and everything is going to impact that stroke. And the second it's in the rice paper, there's like literally nothing you can do about it.
No pressure.
So, anyway, it reminds me of that. That kind of curated, organized chaos.
I love that. Like conceptually, it stresses me out to think of actually doing it. But as a concept, I think it's beautiful.
Sylvia Stressed in chat says, "Oh my god, it's like chaos theory, something so complex and organized it looks random."
Yeah. I believe that Sylvia used rest.
Oh,
I
I'm like
think.
too used to fantasy names and just assumed it was like a super fancy names.
I just happen to know that that's my friend Sylvia and she loves naps.
Oh. So when did you learn to do your first mandala spell, or what does your family call it? Is it called? Do you call them God's eyes?
We call them God's eyes, yeah. My grandmother, the herbalist on my father's side, his mother, she, in addition to being an herbalist by trade, she was also into Jungian psychology and color magic and energy work. And she just got so into mandalas before I was even born. Like she was still very young. And so when I was a kid, we had, instead of like building blocks or Lincoln logs or whatever, we had these varied sizes and bright rainbow colors of building blocks that were all squares and circles, and they would stack. So they were mandala blocks actually, and we would build our own mandalas out of varied sizes and colors of circles and squares. And that was just the blocks that we had to play with as a kid. And she would cut out paper circles and squares in different sizes and different materials, and we would make mandalas with those too. And it was just kind of an everyday thing on the farm. We just all the time making mandalas. And she eventually made them out of stained glass. She
Oh
started
wow.
Yeah, she started printing them on holographic paper eventually, and making what's the word, you put your drink on it on the table.
Coasters?
Yes, thank you, coasters. And so we'd all and she'd make coasters and trivets as well, with different specific intentional color combinations of mandalas printed on them in hollow paper. And then we would put like the family water pitcher on one in the sunshine so that it would absorb all of the colors bouncing off of it. So get all that good sunshine energy and all the different colors that she had put there. And we'd always have, our little mandala coasters to put our drinks on to make sure we were drinking in that good color energy. So it was just, I'd be hard pressed to say when I did like my first kind of mandala craft, because it was just so ubiquitous. It was just woven into every part of every day of my life. That this kind of a practice was something of, hey kids, there's a holiday coming up, or hey kids, we have a sick neighbor or relative, or we want to set some intention here, or we're hoping that the chickens produce well this year. Sit down and make your mandalas, make your God's eyes. Or just sit down and get out of the way, you're underfoot, make some God's eyes.
I love that.
Yeah, very farm witch attitude of it's just kind of there, and you just do it and you don't think too much about it. And it's the same with learning how to read bones and entrails as I did, and we did a lot of like earth scattering for portentous signs, reading omens in scattered rocks or twigs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just a lot of kitchen witchery. We grew all of our own food, and what we weren't able to, we traded with neighbors. And so yeah, just all the time, everyday magic.
Yeah, I posted in the Discord about it, but I got that book, A Witch Alone, that you recommended, and I've only read the first chapter. I'm debating. Oh, actually, before I talk about that, Dame Hex wants to know, how do you end the yarn?
Tie a knot. So here, I'll show you on mine, and then I will just continue along. So you can cut off a little extra when you're done. Get out of here. All right. You cut off a little extra when you're done, and you find a way to lace it through. So find some little piece of yarn that is just slightly loose and work it under so that it's kind of secure. And then tie a knot with that sort of secure cross thread inside of it so that it anchors itself. And I always find mine tightening to be right up against one of the sticks. So it typically will end up knotted directly behind one of them, but you can always kind of wiggle it and loosen it and make it go where it wants to go. That's just usually where mine end. And then from there, I'll typically tie mine in just like a little slip knot so it'll go right over a push pin. And then I can put it on the wall anywhere I want. Okay, I can just weave it through and tie it onto. Did that make sense? Tie it onto one of the previously crisscrossed ones?
Okay. Rin says thank you. So this is kind of where mine is at right now.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah. I let it where it naturally wanted to. I let it be a little more like spaced out, not so tight. And I like that the herbs are gonna dry all like dangly and funky like that.
Yeah, mine always go really, really, really tight until I get bored and I'm over it, and then I let them go spaced out, and then I've got a beautiful spider web outside of a really tight, almost sunshine core.
That's cool.
And then I'm always like, oh, good job, me. I love that.
I'm gonna weave in some of these herb ends so they're not so randomly sticky out. Let's see. Bandit Blue asks, what is the purpose of mandala spells? Do you kind of like charge them with energy as you go?
That is such an awesome question. Why are we even doing this at all, aside from it being cute? So yes, it's very much charging them with energy as you go. I think I briefly said a moment ago that it's kind of like chakra work. There's different levels, and different layers mean different things and carry different energy. So as I go, I'll say this innermost core of white is wearing, keeping that gut safety, that real close to home safety kind of a feeling. And the whole time I'm weaving that part of it, that's the energy I'm working with. That's what I'm feeling. I'm just channeling it through myself into the yarn. And there's something definitely particularly about this kind of mandala craft where you are actively, every piece of yarn is passing through your hands. So any kind of energy that you can like visualize passing through your hands and into the yarn, is going to that part of it. Other kinds of mandala crafts, it's a similar concept. Like if you're working with construction paper, circles and squares, you can say, okay, as I'm gluing down this circle in this color, I know that this is the energy that I'm putting at this layer. And you can just really cement it there. So it's like when you're aligning your chakras, if you're like walking a labyrinth and you're lining up your chakras and you say, I'm walking this circuit of the labyrinth, which corresponds with this chakra. So that's the energy I'm going to focus on as I'm walking this circuit. So it's kind of similar to that. That felt like a lot of answer.
Yeah, it was a good answer. I guess from my perspective, with like any spell work, it's like the act of doing something, making something, crafting something, gives me something to focus on, sort of meditate on, about whatever energy I'm trying to conjure up. So here, like as I'm weaving this and weaving with the herbs, I'm thinking about what the herbs represent. I'm thinking about what the color black represents to me, and I'm just sort of like meditating on my intention the whole time.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Let's see. Bandit Blue says, I think I've made God's eyes like this, but I do believe that has roots in Mexican culture and is sometimes associated with Christianity. But I like the idea of mandala spells. It feels like a good way to put positive intent into spell work. And thank you both for your thoughts on this. Oh, well, thank you for asking. That's very sweet.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as far as like various cultural concepts on mandala working and God's eye working, I feel like this type of craft I've seen from a number of different cultures around the world. It wouldn't surprise me if the style that I learned did have Mexican roots, because I'm Chicana and I grew up in Central California. So there's a lot of Mexican culture and art styles and kind of subtle everyday magic that definitely was a huge part of my upbringing on both sides of my family, just and also from cultural just social absorption context, you know. But I haven't actually really done too much digging on why my family does this. We just kind of always have. I love the idea of this being way back a Mexican approach to this project.
Yeah.
It really ties together the sides of my family for me.
Which kind of reminds me, I've meant to come back to, I've been crafting on top of this book, actually, so now it's like covered in stuff. Just like wave that right in the microphone. Sorry, guys. But A Witch Alone which Friday recommended, by Marion Green. I've only read the first chapter because I guess Marion wrote it with the intention that if you wanted to, you could read a chapter for each new moon, and each chapter ends with some exercises, some thought exercises, some things to go out and research, and you're meant to do that with each moon cycle, and there are 13 chapters, I believe, and so I'm debating whether I want to do that or if I just want to read and do the exercises as I go. Of course, me, it's like, oh, well, the book says I should do this. So, but the first chapter is all about what witchcraft means to Marion, her perspective on it. And a lot of it is kind of going back to your roots. I think she describes it as people who are drawn to witchcraft are drawn to a particular path, but that path is overgrown. It's kind of going back to how the wheel of the year is tied very much to the harvest, things that were really real events when everyone was in agriculture. And these days, those ideas, those festivals are sort of abstract, because we're so far removed from how our food is produced. And so the first chapter, a lot of the exercises are about learning your roots, learning the roots of the place where you live, kind of hearkening back to older times and older ways of thinking, that's not necessarily what I mean, but like understanding what lifestyles used to be in simpler times. So I think it makes sense that a lot of folks are sort of drawn to what their ancestry is in witchcraft.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I really like that book a lot. I have to say, in classic Friday chaos nature, I don't think I even noticed that was a chapter for each lunar cycle. I have had that book for years. It's one of my great, like, I should revisit some concepts and reground myself in my practices. I'll go back to it here and there. And I don't think I ever noticed that she had intended to structure it that way.
That's so funny.
You notice so many things that I just breeze right past. I appreciate that about you so much.
Yeah.
I feel like our friendship inspires me to slow down and pace myself and actually pay more attention and be more intentional in my just kind of everyday walking life.
Likewise, I feel like you inspire me to trust my intuition more and be a little bit more freeform in my thinking.
Friendship is magic.
The real magic was friendship.
Yes.
All right, I've tied mine off and woven through and then tied it again. But this is how my first one ended up. I mean, I can make another one. I've got all my frames I've made. But I also found like a little like picture hanging thing, and so I had nailed that into the center of the back.
That's so structured.
Yeah.
There's so much forethought. That's amazing. Lysa, so often I'll just shove a push pin in the wall and just kind of worry the yarn onto it. And I'm like, you
Oh,
go
that's
there.
a good idea too. No, I knew that I had something, and like you know how everyone has that like kitchen drawer that has just random crap in it. I knew I had something in there. I just went in and I was like, I'm looking for something, I don't know what, and I found that and I'm like,
There it
perfect.
is.
Yep.
Look at that intuition, huh?
Yeah. It smells so good. I'm excited to hang it in the kitchen. All the herbs kind of make it perfect for like a little kitchen
Yeah,
thing.
that's so sweet. I love that.
Of course,
Yeah,
now
I
I've
don't
used
know
all
where
my
my
herbs.
I know I have to hang mine someplace where it's going to get a lot of light so it dries out properly and doesn't rot because I'm working with fresh green material wrapped, swaddled in yarn. So maybe someplace that isn't going to get too warm so it won't sweat. Maybe that's the key. I don't know. I got to dry it out somewhere because like I said, I'm intending to use this on my ofrenda for Dia de Muertos, and it is very early for that. I don't know.
Brockset asks, how do you pair some of this Western paganism tradition with your Chinese background? That is a really good question and something I feel like I'm trying to figure out every day. So, for example, I'm really enjoying A Witch Alone just from the introduction and the first chapter. But the first chapter talks about as you're taking a walk down the streets, think about like think about where that street is and whether an old stream used to be there or why buildings are built in certain places, why the layout of the town is a certain way. If you have access to an older generation, your grandparents, ask them what the place used to be like. And I'm like, well, my family has like is all on the other side of the world. I don't speak their language. It doesn't fully capture that immigrant experience for me, which is something I find in a lot of paganism that there are there are certain ancestries that are a lot more common to the pagan faith, and so in a lot of the literature and resources, they kind of make assumptions about where your ancestors came from. So gosh, but what was helpful in A Witch Alone was that at the very end of the first chapter, there's a sentence about how you shouldn't just look for books that say witchcraft in the title. Actually, I want to read it word for word because I can try to capture it, but I'll probably not capture it precisely. Whatever you read, try not to restrict yourself to just those books marked witchcraft. Look at country life, seasonal festivals, ancient religions, local customs, and sacred places. And so that kind of made things click in my head. And so today I spent a lot of time researching just history of my family's hometown. I've never done that before, just like Wikipedia'd where my family's from. And I went and was looking through like the culture section and the food and realizing all the foods that my family makes when we used to go back to China every year, every other year. Those are the special regional foods. And it made me actually really emotional to think about how I, as a younger kid, had really taken for granted all of these experiences where my family was trying to teach me their culture. And I think I maybe realized it on some level, but not to the depth of how much I appreciate in retrospect those experiences. So I'm looking up like those foods and I'm thinking, well, as part of my practice, I might want to make some of those traditional recipes because those traditional recipes are what they are because they speak to like the foods that were readily available and hearty in my hometown, and I can maybe connect with my ancestry in that way. Also thinking about holidays that we would celebrate, like the Moon Festival, the Mid-Autumn Festival, or Chinese New Year, which is a lunar New Year. I feel like that kind of overlaps a little bit with the pagan practices that I've researched. More than a little bit. It's all about that moon.
Emphatic nodding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that speaks to me so much, Lysa. Not on the immigrant experience side, because I can't really speak to that. I I was born and raised in the US. I grew up in California. I've not even gone that far from my hometown. I'm 2 states north now. It's not even that far. But I can definitely speak um, to the your heritage isn't necessarily going to be found in books on witchcraft, and that's you're going to miss so much if you're just looking for regional witchcraft specifically, because like I said, back on the farm, as all my stories go, everything was, it just kind of was, it just was a part of the day-to-day practice. And so like with a lot of Western pagan traditions, especially in terms of like Sabbats, like the big holidays, they're all harvest related. They're all, agriculture related. And I'm like, that's extremely personal to me because I lived that life in a contemporary, like in my actual childhood. Like, so when we're doing, planting and harvesting festivals and all of that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's real. Like, and I don't think that the way that I feel about that experience is not necessarily the way that it's written about in books on witchcraft, or they're saying look back on when that was a thing. I feel a lot more connected with my family practices and my heritage when I'm reading books on like urban homesteading, things like that. Like contemporary actual farming that people are doing right now is a lot more personal and relatable to me, and I can say, oh, all of these practices that were a big part of my family's like magic are tied into current, like right now, California agriculture. So being able to like find other ways that magic is absolutely a part of your world and your heritage and your your upbringing and your home life, not necessarily going to be, as you said, or as that book said, in books that say witchcraft on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I knew this, but a lot of books on witchcraft talk about how it's like honoring it's nature, getting in touch with nature, but the way Marianne said it and like connecting it to the harvest and how old witchcraft really came from, like, it was just a part of life, or like knowing what herbs did what and all of that. So there aren't necessarily books or lessons on it. It's stuff people learned and absorbed the moment they started learning and absorbing anything. Yours looks so cool.
I was just thinking, this is a mess.
Oh no, it looks like a spider web. That's awesome.
Totally. Yeah, see, I keep it tight in the middle, and then and then at some point I just say I'm done with that shape, and I'm just gonna spider web it out.
That's so cool.
Then, maybe stick rocks or seashells or whatever. I'm gonna definitely put my oil on it. I was thinking about rosemary, but now I'm thinking about jasmine because it's pretty. And just the color scheme, I don't know. It's definitely rosemary-y for sure. There's rosemary in it, but it's also kind of jasmine-y, and I don't know, it just sounds so pretty. So I've got my marigold and I've got my rosemary, and I have zero other reason for the intent of this thing to be putting jasmine on it other than it's pretty and I want to. So I'm going to
roll with it. I was like, oh, Fridays is so cool. I want to make one just like Fridays. So I was taking apart my frames, and I like was trying to wiggle the wire off of this one to detach them so I would have 3, but it won't keep going. But I felt like I could maybe do something like that.
Layers.
Like, that's cool.
Layers. That's neat. Like a Venn diagram, but God's eye.
I'm going to try it.
Do it? That's awesome. I just realized why I wanted to put this this scent on here. It took me a second to figure out why the heck I was so drawn to it, but I did it. It's this is actually a perfume, not like an oil extract or whatever, an essential oil. This is a perfume that is made from one of the teas that we carry at our shop, from the General's Jasmine one. So it's like jasmine and black tea and green tea and osmanthus. And this one was a particular beloved favorite of a friend of mine who passed away recently and who doesn't have anything for my Dia Ofrenda yet. Oh. And so I think this was like secretly a Danielle God's eye all along. So now she has her own piece that has a perfume made of one of her favorite teas.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I like that.
I don't know if you're looking at chat, but everyone's talking about moon cakes, and they're making me really hungry.
Yum!
I want a moon cake.
Yes, please.
To answer the question that everyone is answering in chat, Lotus paste mooncakes, classic. I like anything with I think it's called pandan in it, which is like vanilla, but Asia's vanilla. But my favorite mooncake is the one with like a bajillion different kinds of nuts in it. My mom also makes a really good pineapple one. Hey, call me Kramer.
Hi. Wing is here. Wing, you had tea flavored mooncakes? What kind of tea? Tell me now. You need to know what kind of tea we're putting in mooncakes because that sounds freaking incredible.
Wait, someone had tea mooncakes?
Yeah, 7-ish magpies. That's our dear friend Wing.
What? Oh. I really want to learn how to make mooncakes, but it looks like extreme complicated. I've seen my mom make them. It's many steps.
Yeah. I've had people bring me mooncakes a couple of times, and I realized that works for me. People just bring them to me at work. So that's my relationship with mooncakes is I hang out at the tea shop and then people bring me them.
Oh my God. That works for me.
I like that arrangement very much.
Oh,
that's how I get most of my pastry. I hang out at the tea shop and then bakers bring me things.
I feel like the classic mooncake, Secretly Grander says, I've never had mooncakes before, but I want to try them. I feel like the classic mooncake is lotus paste, and then there's an egg yolk in the middle of it, like a salted egg yolk, which personally I do not enjoy, but it represents the moon.
I will enjoy
so
that.
It looks cool.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Yeah, I've had very few mooncakes in my life. I mean, Wing says that they brought them to the tea shop last year, so I believe I've had those tea mooncakes, and that sounds vaguely familiar, but that was probably like 50 years ago at this point, so I don't know. Yeah. But I feel like I've had like melon ones. Are there like green melon ones at all?
Yeah, there are.
Okay. Yeah.
There are so many different kinds.
I think I've had that. Or like some kind of like squash, some kind of like melony squash situation. I don't know. Oh, wow. We've got a
Dame Heck says, I have a triple moon pendant that used to be a necklace, but I don't wear jewelry anymore, so I put it on my mandala, and I love it.
Perfect. Oh my gosh.
What a great way to recycle that.
Jewelry on your God's eyes is so good. That's such a good thing to do. You can even, if you want to make like a personal strength and like oomph kind of imbuing mandala for yourself, I like to do sometimes ones that look like the sunshine, and you can do one that is like red at the core and then orange and then yellow and then white, and it looks like a sun just exploding light and joy and confidence. And then sometimes I'll have one, I used to have one before I had a house fire and lost everything, but I would hang my earrings in it, like a little earring caddy. Mm-hmm. And then I put them on and be like, this is my magic earring now.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, they say they're winter melon pastries.
Yes, great.
Okay, cool.
That's the only time I've ever had that. I had no idea what it was. I knew that it was something melony, and it was freaking delicious. Yeah, there's a lot of Chinese kind of classic dishes and pastries and things with which I am only vaguely sort of peripherally academically familiar and haven't actually encountered that much in my life. And it's my dearest, fondest wish in this world to eat everything.
Yeah, I just want you to go on your dream Chinese tea field trip, like to go to China and visit farms and eat food. That's all I want for you.
I have that hookup in a number of different regions on a number of different farms because I work so closely with so many small farms. I get to know the farmers quite personally, and I've never been to China. And I had hoped to start doing my tea tourism this year. I was going to be in India for the first half of May on a tea tour and staying at, plantations all over the Himalayas in South India. And of course, that was canceled for this year. But I figure, supposedly, hypothetically, probably India will still be there in future So I do intend to go. And India's been the number one on my list for ages, but it's certainly, of course, China's up there in terms of tea tourism. And I met this wonderful couple at the World Tea Expo last year, Qingping and Sean, and they own a tea plantation in Hunan, which is one of my favorite tea growing regions because everything that comes from there is so mineral rich. The soil is so rich in minerals that every tea that comes from Hunan tastes a little bit like petrichor, has that like soft mineral, like when rain first hits dry pavement and it kicks up that mouth-watering mineral kind of scent.
That's extremely evocative.
Oh, I love that. It's one of my favorite things. And a lot of the tea from there, like all the tea that grows there, tastes like that and leaves a mineral sediment in the bottom of the cup because there's just so much mineral in the leaf. And Qingping and Sean said I could come visit them at their farm in Hunan, and that all the tea that they grow there, just generally speaking, farmers in Hunan grow tea to pair with popular foods, not the other way around. Hunan is about food. They said, come visit us and we'll feed you everything and you can drink all the tea that is designed to pair with every dish. So
Please.
That's my dream.
Yeah.
I love it. Food tourism. Oh yes, we have a say hi to Farmer Jerry for us. You know I will. Go visit Wee anarchist tea farmer Jerry and say hi. Yep. Oh yeah, latecomers to the stream. You can also just start your project now. I finished my project and I hung it up on my wall.
Oh.
Here on my little, this was the most available push pin, so I hung it for fun. It is actually on top of my like Witch's Almanac wall calendar.
I love that wall calendar, by the way. It has so much useful stuff in it.
For sure, love it. All the associations and planting days and phases and colors and just everything. Recipes sometimes.
DMX, Lisa's making like 3.
Oh yeah.
I combined my other 2 to make this like funky weird shape.
I love that. I like that you can make 2 of them and you could even interweave them. So it's like a total Venn diagram of God's eye.
That would be really
cool. In my mind, that would be just the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I might have to make one like that. I used up my project, so I'm sitting here and playing with my cards. Oh,
do you want to do a tarot reading for us?
Okay, I can, but also can you tell me how to take care of my plants? I brought
okay.
I got plants, and you know I deal in dead plants only, and I'm terrified to have live plants, but I really want to be the kind of person that can keep a plant alive. So I bought these before I went to California, so it's been, I don't know, almost a month. I think about a month.
They're doing okay.
They're doing okay. This one's the aloe is starting to feel a little skinny. It's not feeling quite as plump. And I haven't watered them once this whole time.
Okay. So
it's been like a month.
So that guy's just telling you he's thirsty. But so I'm kind of a lazy plant person. Most plants I can treat the same, which is I water them approximately once a week. But before I water them, what I do is I stick my finger into the dirt. And if it feels completely dry, they need water and probably like a little extra water. But my danger is I overwater things, so I try my best to scale back. The aloe plant is probably going to want the most light out of those 3. And the snake plant is going to be the most forgiving.
I have 2. One's braided and one is not.
Oh, I was wondering what that
snake plant.
Oh,
it says black snake plant, and it's kind of striated or variegated like the other one is, but it's very open leafed and it's so pretty. But this one exploded babies at me.
Yay!
A bunch of the dirt just came out, and these little babies just exploded out of this sucker the other day.
So you're doing well then. Yeah, snake plants are super. They're my favorite because they're really easy to take care of. If you forget them, they're pretty good at being champs about it. I'm like careful about how I'm saying this because I have a snake plant right here. I think yeah, and I don't want him to be like, wait, what?
I'll show you. Yeah.
But yeah, I do that same thing. I just kind of stick my finger in the dirt. When I water them, I like to water them so that like they get a little bit of it in their leaves.
Oh. Okay, cool. With succulents, I usually give it an ice cube once in a while instead of watering it too much. And turn it 90 degrees in the sun each time I water. That's awesome.
Oh, Oh,
I like
okay.
that.
Some
I like the
tips.
idea of rotating my plants a specific number of degrees in the sunshine. That feels very magical to me.
Yeah.
I like
Jess
that.
has got my back. Snake plants are strong and resilient. That's how you can say it.
Well, good. I hoped that that was true. I just chose some that I liked and decided I was going to be good at plants, but I've literally never kept a plant alive. So,
I have faith
sorry.
in you. And look, you're like making more plants with your braided snake
It did
plant
that.
already.
It
Yeah.
exploded the dirt right out of there,
Yeah.
and there was babies. So that felt like a good sign. And this one seems perky enough.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything.
So
So there's it's been like a month since I got them, and I've never watered them this whole time. They are bone dry.
yeah,
Wow.
they definitely want some water. If you're
Okay.
planning on repotting them at all, the only other advice I'll give is that you probably want pots with drainage holes. If you, for folks who have like a little more experience with plants and like know how much water you should be giving them at any one time, you can kind of get away with like putting pebbles in the bottom so there's some drainage in a pot without a drainage hole. But if you're worried about keeping them alive, I would not test fate.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. I feel like this one clearly needs a new pot because it's exploding babies all over the place up to the edge of the pot. So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
my
I
snake
have
plant's
one-
getting a little crowded too. Might
Yeah.
need to separate the babies.
I did have one question about the ones that are not exploding babies.
Okay.
And I asked this question in my like morning tea meditation live stream, and no one answered me. And the question is, are plants like fish in that if you put them in too big of a container, they'll get sad and die?
It depends on
Like
the plant.
Okay.
And I honestly I do not know about snake plants. I will maybe pot them in like slightly bigger pots, and most plants like that. If you're at like a nursery or something and you're picking up plants, I would ask the people there because there are a few house plants out there that really dislike being planted into a much larger pot. Most of them will grow to fit the pot.
Okay. Yeah, I had that experience with a beta fish one time where I put it in a bigger vessel because I thought that it would want more space, and it got depressed and it died. So I'm like really nervous about that now. And I don't know how much fish are like plants or plants are like fish. So
Wait, really? Because I thought beta fish were. I mean, Jess is like the expert in beta fish. Jess says snake plants are happy in small pots. Chris, are plants like fish? I was hoping the question would just end there.
Well, that was the whole question, to be fair, but I figured I might need to elaborate a bit for comprehension on specifically in what way I was inquiring. I am also interested to hear everybody's ideas about how much plants are like fish and how much plants are not like fish. Just as a thought exercise, I think that's a good one. Are plants like fish? Open
When Friday
question.
asked if plants were like fish, I knew immediately what she meant.
Thank you for understanding me. I feel so appreciated right now. I spend most of my time feeling like no one knows what I'm saying.
Dame Hex asked a question, which maybe you have some insight on. So my problem with this mandala craft, or any craft in general, is that it doesn't have enough stuff on it, but I also cannot decide where to put more stuff, so I think I'm done. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I think that really just depends on like your mood. It's so individual. If you think it should have more stuff on it, find some more stuff that you could potentially put on it. Throw it on there randomly, and then see what you hate and what you love, and then wiggle to adjust. Or if you can't think of a way in which you would like to add more stuff, then it's also an option to just leave it and say it's minimalist. But I think it's so individual.
I'm starting to wrap the string just on everything now. And I'm like, oh, some strings are loose. Should I go backwards? But no, we're going to keep forging ahead. Maybe the strings were meant to be slightly loose. It's fine.
It's so good. Oh my gosh. You said forging ahead, and I immediately visualized like a large like hand hammered coffin nail woven through that.
I think I'm gonna weave things into the strings and add them after, since I did not bring more herbs with me to this craft.
So cool. It's very neat. Oh, I have a sweet puppy on my lap who is happy to be here. There he is.
Bergamot.
Bergamot check. All right, hi. Yep, I was talking about you. So I can do a read for a group if we want to.
Yeah, let's put the tarot in Tarot Tuesday.
If we feel like it, yeah, I can do one. I have 7 decks in front of me. Oh, I forgot one. I have 8 decks in total. Actually, that is a really good deck for today. The one that I forgot about is probably the best fit for this project. This is only an 8-card deck. It's an oracle deck, clearly not a tarot deck. But this one is the Moonflower art deck by, I believe, the Moon Journal. And it's got all different moon phases and their corresponding flowers and a single keyword for the sort of energy or intention for that phase of the moon. And for some reason, this just feels like a very good one for this project on this day. Moonflower corresponding decks.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Ooh. Bandit Blue asks, actually a pretty good question for the two of us. What kind of thoughts do y'all have about the tower?
That's a great question.
We have really different thoughts about the tower.
The tower is my comfort card, which is not a popular opinion at all. It's been the card with which I identify the most, and that has the energy that is where I feel the most at home. I'm definitely of the hummingbird hurricane personality type, where every couple of years I like to tear my entire life apart and start completely from scratch. I do not like to hold still, and I do not like for anything to stay the same for very long. I like destruction and chaos and recreation and everything being in flux at all times. So the tower card is absolutely my happy place.
That was just, and Friday's explanation was stressful for me to hear. And that's what you need to know about how the two of us feel about the tower.
Lysa, the tower in my new deck, the Santa Muerte, is very interesting. It's very different.
I want to see
it. It is an Escher staircase situation.
Oh, that is very different.
It is quite different. This one doesn't give me a sense of destruction. Like a lot of them have such destructive imagery, things being struck by lightning or things tearing themselves apart, things breaking off. This one, there's some flower petals that are floating around, and there are people doing their MC Escher thing. Just, we've got we've got Las Bodas, the married couple, is walking on one of the staircases. We've got La Catrina, who's kind of the ferryman between the land of the living and the land of the dead. She guides people back and forth. So there's just all of these classic kind of Mexican, characters, particularly surrounding death culture, and things are just sort of floating around. So this one gives me a sense of like unmooredness or ungroundedness more than destruction. But nothing's broken and nothing is destroyed. It
just feels like you're thrown for a loop.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite interesting in this deck. Oh my gosh. Jules Verne says I pulled the tower 3 times this week. I'm also in a period of pretty major and sudden change. So yeah, that
wow, that tower life.
Ooh, that tower life. No, see, even the staircase is making people anxious. I thought, okay, that's nice.
I want to find the tower in mine. It is pretty destructive, but it's a very evocative card.
Yeah, it is quite different in a lot of different decks.
Here it is in the Forager's Daughter deck.
Ooh.
It's like a tree that's burnt. Honestly, it's California right now. Yeah. Trees burning from the inside. Can't get it to focus. Oh well. But again, this deck is like such a hopeful deck because the tree is struck by lightning, burning from the inside, but there's little sprouts at the base of the tree and little morels at the base of the tree. There's always something to come.
Huh. I love that
I
one.
think I like it, how hopeful this deck is.
Yeah, I have a really hopeful, fun, like perky friendship deck. You know, the this one, the 90s new agey one that I've had since I was 12 years old. And like this is the one that has this card for the death card. It's called Rebirth, and it's this totally Babely Raven, like maiden mother crone scorpion situation. It was also the first. It was the first tarot deck I ever got, and it was very exciting to me because the Lovers card, they're totally getting it on, and you can kind of see their legs through the mist. Just
oh my god!
Bit. And my 12-year-old self was like,
"Ooh,
naughty." Their legs wrapped around each other. So naughty. Now I'm just like, that's adorable. At the time, it was so risque.
Scandalous.
Totally. I remember just looking at that and being like, I can't believe they let me buy this. It's like basically, full adult content. But yeah, in this deck, it's a non-standard tarot deck where like they've got extra major arcana cards. And some of the things that are classically in the major arcana have kind of been transposed conceptually into the minor arcana. So it's deeply non-standard. And in this one, the Tower card is actually found on, what are you? The Ace of Swords. And this is
card. That's very much the Tower.
Absolutely. And in this deck, it speaks more to me of like self-sacrifice, like intentional, just burning it all down because that's what you got to do to get through. And I like that very much. That was my first Tower card, and it just fascinated me. And then now that's just the thing. Okay, I'm going to draw us all a card, okay?
Okay.
Everybody put in your energies, and we're going to draw a card that is about just kind of general energy direction. Something to keep in mind. We can give ourselves a keyword. This is my super advanced tarot spread for today. We're going to give ourselves a keyword, something to focus on, some place to put our energy this week. I like this one. We have the waxing crescent. It's a carnation, which is one of my favorite flowers. And I think one of your favorite flowers.
Yeah, I love carnations.
Yeah, so we have the carnation, refine, waxing crescent. This is about having figured out what your goal is and where to point your energy. Now finessing it, putting the fine touches on that.
This card's for me.
Good. That's what I think about that.
For folks in the chat, what does that mean for you, the word refine? What does that speak to in your life right now? Also, I've tied off my like funky mess of a web.
That's so good.
It almost looks like a spider has wound a flower into a creepy cocoon. And now I'm going to add tassels all to this bottom stick.
That's going to be so cool. Is it going to be a wall hanging, do you think?
I think so. I like putting things on my wall. There was a nail in, well, I love hanging things on walls, but I went and bought a cement brick house. So it's really hard to hang things on the walls here. But the previous owner had like left some nails and stuff. So I keep trying to make things that'll fit in there. Which way does this tassel go? Like this? Nope, that will be upside down. Okay, like this. Ember Gold, thanks for following. Lisa, are you the spider? Maybe. I think spiders are cute these days.
We had such a good spider in my room this morning, Lisa. It was just very industrious. It was this tiny little buddy, but it was moving so quick, and I saw it go all the way across the room and then down and then all the way up another wall, and it was just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, you can't squish them. They're working so hard.
They're such friends.
It feels like honing a blade. I think of two things in my life, and that's starting up a cooking blog with some friends, that some friends requested I do. I feel like it's also finding my craft and refining it, like sharpening a sword, or honing intent, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense to me. For sure.
Brockset says, refine for me. Got the Inktober list today. Going to refine my ideas for what to draw each day.
Excellent.
Nice.
Very good. How about you, Lisa?
Goodness. Well, for me, I've been spending the first part of my vacation truly just relaxing and stuff. But I have a bunch of projects that I think I also kind of like in what our friends in chat are saying, just refining some ideas for those writing and design projects. And I think just I mean, I have my full-time job, but that's never enough for me. I always want other things going on because I have the flexibility to be able to do those. And I kind of just want to sit down and think about what I want to do. Like that waxing crescent. I feel like it's the beginning of something. I just got to figure out what direction I want to go in.
I love that.
Does it mean something for you?
Yeah, it's boring. It's so literal. Mine is boring. So at the tea shop right now, I'm in the process of hiring on a new cashier so I can not work behind the counter anymore. 10 years into owning my business, and I'm finally getting out from behind the counter, which is bittersweet for me. It's hard to let go of being the one putting my hands on every single order that comes in and out and every single customer interaction, because I love my work, and also I'm not serving the company's best needs behind the counter anymore, and I'm better applied elsewhere, and I'm just spread too thin. So I'm hiring a new person to replace myself behind the counter, and I went through 11 interviews in the last 5 days, which is exhausting.
Yeah.
I don't like being looked at that much in person, and I don't like being the center of attention. And so in a one-on-one interview, I, the interviewer, get extremely nervous because someone's looking at me and I have to present myself a certain way. It's so draining for me. And then also there's picking, and then there's also letting people down and telling them no to hate. So this week, I did today narrow it down to 3 of who I think will be the best fit for our space and our team moving forward. So I have literally refined the selection, and so now it's a process of doing working interviews and refining it further until we find exactly the right one. So horribly literal, actually refining.
That's not boring though. That's a major, exciting, big step in your business and life.
Oh, yeah, I feel so uncomfortable about it, but also it's good. This is where I'm not putting my money where my mouth is in terms of my love of the Tower card. It's a huge career shift, while still, running the business that I've built and loved and raised by myself. And it's a big change in how I see myself in relation to customers, and that's deeply uncomfortable. And I feel almost this guilt for not being the one serving behind the counter. In some way it somehow means that I don't care, or that now we've gone soulless and corporate, or I don't know. I've got this idea.
Oh, no way. I bet everyone's happy for you.
Probably. And I also think that it's true that for me, my deepest fear in this world is people thinking that I'm a slacker. And literally no one ever in my life has ever thought that about me.
Yeah, no way.
I'm always worried about it. And people wish I would take more breaks, but that freaks me out. So I'm trying to slow down.
Secretly Grander says, no more NPC behavior.
I know, I do it. I do that. Totally. So called out. Thank you. Yeah, I for sure, I've put myself in an NPC role my entire adult life, and I'm just starting to be but what if I'm a person?
Novel concept.
I know, it scares me and excites me at the same time. It makes me nervous-sighted. So yeah, thrilling to be working toward being a person outside of actively being in service mode all the time, every day. So refining that. I did a little other spread for myself just because that's what I do when I'm talking, and Lisa, every single card came up reversed.
Oh, wow. Well, in our Discord, we're working on being comfortable with reversed cards. Do you want to share your insights with us?
Sure, yeah. It was just completely a thoughtless, just throwing some stuff out there, which I usually do when I'm doing a little check-in with myself to kind of focus. And it's I feel like it's my subconscious's way of saying, hey, pay attention to this.
Yeah.
So I came out first with the Eight of Swords reversed, which in its upright form, let me see if I can get some more light on. I don't know if that helped at all. In its upright
God,
form,
swords are so scary.
I like.
Of course you do.
Action fact. It's so the card looks like it's so Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm kind of obsessed with it. You've got the like old timey Mexican. I think they're naval uniform cuffs there, and they are trying to stand their ground against this skull that is also a storm cloud with lightning going through it. So it's a very scary card. And this is, I believe, the card that is generally meant to be about being at an impasse, two equal forces opposing each other in combat of whatever sort, and being so equally matched that everyone's stuck and things have to come to a breaking point at some point. So I guess in reverse, reversals are something that are a pretty new concept to me the last few years, and I'm still kind of figuring out how I feel about them. And I know we were just talking about this in the Moss Coven Discord. And yeah, I feel like when things come up reversed, I just have to shut my brain off because I can second guess myself and overanalyze pretty easily. And so I guess for something like this, I would say that this is kind of at a point of being afraid of that breaking point, finding it a challenge, being especially uncomfortable and tripping over and letting that thing get in my way. As opposed to the, hey, you're in an impasse. This is the, oh no, you're not feeling good about being in this, and it's actively blocking you from doing something. So I guess that's how I feel like that one applies here. And then my second card is the Ace of Cups reversed.
Oh, what a beautiful card, though.
So stunning, right?
All the art is so gorgeous in that deck.
This artist is remarkable, and there are no fewer than 4 different textures of water on one card here. It's so pretty. Bandit, were you asking about the this was the Eight of Swords that we were just discussing a minute ago. I had the Eight of Swords reversed.
Fern, thank you for following.
Now we've got the Ace of Cups reversed, which to me speaks of being drained, not the pouring from an empty cup.
Yeah, like your cup has been turned upside down.
Exactly. Even. Yeah. The upright Ace of Cups, I feel like usually speaks to me of being in a place of having that emotional wellspring, that emotional resource. And when it's reversed like that, I feel like that means trouble in that area. And then the last one is upright, one of my least favorite cards, the Hanged Man. But visually, artistically, I love this one. And I do love that in this artist's representation, the Hanged Man is very clearly causing his own situation here. He's holding his own.
He's holding it, yeah.
Yeah. This speaks to me of self-inflicted being stuck and waiting and waiting and waiting. There's a little clock floating in the water. So I hate this card upright. I don't like when the Hangman comes up because it means holding still and waiting for something, and that is the worst thing. So upside down, reversed, I feel like this does speak to being impatient to get it over with and feeling deeply uncomfortable waiting.
I did.
Which feels right.
I did a reading for Dustin the other night, trying to get more comfortable reading for other people, and the Hanged Man came up. And the Hanged Man is one of his favorite cards. And how he described it was, it's a shift in perspective.
I like that.
Yeah. If that maybe makes you warm to the Hanged Man a little bit. Turn yourself upside down. He told me a story that I'm not going to be able to repeat super well. But like Odin, to get a change in perspective, literally hung himself from the world tree for a number of days, died, and came back to come back with new different wisdoms. So a really extreme, probably.
Odin would.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. I will allow it. Odin hung himself from the world tree for 9 nights to gain knowledge of the runes. There's other ways, read a book, Odin.
But why, when you can be that much of a diva
Yeah,
about
that's
it?
so
I have to go
metal.
sit out for literally 9 days and then die and then come back and then maybe I'll see what I need to see. It's so extra.
All right, here's my
Yeah.
chaos web. I don't know if you can like really see it.
Love the tassels.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're so loose. That's
Yeah. They're like
fantastic.
kind of curly.
They do this shape.
Yeah.
I
Let's
like
see.
it.
I need to figure out how to hang this one.
I
Or
love
just
Norse
put a push pin
mythology.
in the wall and
Yeah, just shove it on there. You
Yeah.
can just hang it on any push pin. I like what Jules Verne is saying here about the Hanged Man. To me, just says you played yourself. I like that very much.
I feel like especially yours.
This one.
Yeah.
Played yourself, sucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the way that I have seen it interpreted in a lot of decks and kind of how I learned to look at it was as you're at a balance point and haven't figured out what direction to go. So it's like a waiting game.
Uh-huh.
And that's how it was taught to me, more than how I have come to have a relationship with that card and interact with it. To be frank, I was taught that definition for that card, and it made me so cranky pants that I was like, well, forget you. I don't like it. And I just never thought about it again.
Yeah, sitting still, I feel like, is like the opposite of the tower.
Terrible.
I'm trying to find the Hanged Man in this deck, because I can't think of what it even looks like. Death. I love the death card in this one. It's going to be the last card, I swear.
I'm going to have to show you the Sun card, because that's one of yours that you really love. And what is another? Star? Is it the Star that you
Star, I really like. The death card is kind of my go-to to judge. If I'm going to judge a deck on one card, it's usually the death card.
Well, here's the Star in this one for you, Lysa.
Oh, wow.
Yes, this is a full-on Aztec priestess situation, belly deep in water and surrounded by other creatures, and then with this desert behind and an inverted 7-pointed star above the head, and the classic kind of Aztec blood painted on the chin, except in sugar skull sort of format.
Ooh.
But I am so in love with this one. It's beautiful. And the devil card is what I'm thinking of. What does the death card look like in here? I don't remember.
Here's my death card, which again, super hopeful.
Oh,
there's a burb who has died, but flowers are growing from it. So again, there's always something that comes after. It's more of a change. And I found the Hanged Man, which in this deck, which is very like botanical and naturey, it's a cocoon, which I totally get your meaning of like you're at a stage where you have to sit still. You're in this cocoon, you can't, and like now you just got to wait for that transformation to happen. But I can also see the change in perspective because this caterpillar is about to have a major change in perspective.
Big time.
So I could see both meanings there.
I like that very much. I have no idea where my death card is. Does it have one? It must. Oh, another card that makes me horribly uncomfortable. The 4 of Cups. Ugh.
Oh, but that's like meditation, and that is another very sitting still cup. Is that the death card? Oh, that's the 4 of Cups.
Yeah. Oh, what did I say?
No, you said 4 of Cups, but I thought you were still looking for the other. He does not look happy about that.
Every time I see it, it hurts my feelings because this one is very clearly someone who sat still too long. And the way it's interpreted in the artist's book, this is a person who held still too long, didn't make any decisions, hit a point of apathy that all the life force was drained out. And this one in particular, there's a corazón sagrada doused in the puddle of brain goo, a sacred flaming heart that in all the other cards is bright red and fully alive. In this one, it's been doused out.
This one encapsulates all your fears.
Ugh, I don't like it.
I feel like that's worse than the Hanged Man, because the Hanged Man, you're at least like sitting still for a little bit. 4 of Cups, he'd sit still forever and ever.
Your brains all fell out. This one I love because it looks like my mom.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. The
That's a
Queen of
very
Pentacles,
that's a very
which is
happy
how I see her
card.
too. Yeah, and that's what she looks like in real life, except with flesh. I love my mommy, and I think she's wonderful. And so I saw that card the first time, and I was like, "Oh, hi, my mom. I love her." Oh, and then I want to show you two of my other very favorite cards in this deck that just tickle me. They're funny cards. Some of these are like heartbreaking, like really rough, gorgeous, like this art hurt my feelings, and some of them are so funny. The strength card is a straight up luchador.
Oh my gosh.
It's a luchador wrestling a Quetzalcoatl.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
That is super fantastic. I love that that deck has a sense of humor.
It's so funny. And then the Four of Pentacles, which in my learning has been the lookout for being too greedy card, the like avarice card, is a full-on Bridezilla Kaiju.
Oh my god.
So I've decided I now have to start like a Mexicana rock house punk band called Bridezilla Kaiju.
Ooh, good name.
Yeah. But this is the funniest card in the world to me. She's like tearing it apart. Mine, give me green, green, green. Like the Bridezilla card I was not expecting.
Oh gosh. You never expect the Bridezilla Kaiju.
No, one never does. It's so funny. And, you know, I've not found the death card in here.
Surely that deck of any deck must have a death card.
One would think, are they all the death cards? One would think.
Dame Hex says, the death card in my deck is the Journey.
I love that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Wait, that sounds familiar. What deck is that? Maybe that sounds familiar because my crunchy granola hippie 90s new agey deck has a card called the Journey. Oh, Wildwood. That's it. Okay. Yep. Because
Teacup has that one.
Yep, that's Teacup's favorite deck. So I'm sure that I've seen that one. I love that. Yeah. I'm now on a frantic hunt to find my death card.
I'm on a frantic hunt to get this twine out of my mouth. Blah. I used my mouth to tie a knot, and now there's just like fibers.
Oh, yep.
Not the helpful kind.
Gross. Oh yeah, the card that drew me to this deck, the one that I saw it and I was like, I must have it, was actually the Two of Cups, which is one of my cards that I judge decks by. The Two of Cups.
Interesting.
Especially compared to the Lovers. I compare those two and see how do you represent the difference between those concepts.
Ooh, now I'm going to go look up my two. Yeah, I'm going to look up both of those.
And compare it to the Lovers, because the Two of Cups is, you know, at its core about partnership, right?
Yeah.
And the Lovers is at its core about partnership as well, but it's how different artists interpret them as being different. Oh, of course. The death card in my deck is La Santa Muerte. It's because it doesn't say death.
Yeah.
La Santa Muerte, and she's fully pregnant and praying in a very like Catholic cathedral window frame style. She has the scythe at her feet and a cradle in front of her.
Yeah.
So she is one kind of a concept sort of adjacent to Goddess of Death, but Santa Muerte is a complicated one with a lot of misrepresentation. So I feel like that's a whole other thing.
Not knowing anything really about her lore, I really like that death card doesn't focus only on like destruction or ending, but has very clear symbols of new beginnings.
Definitely, and that's so much about La Santa Muerte that is absolutely accurate to her lore, but she's kind of punk rock. She just shows up and is like, we're doing this, and here's what's going on, and it's transition, and it's time for this, and you're gonna be okay, and deal with that. And she's so punk rock about it. And there's a whole like cult of Santa Muerte that's tied in with like Santeria, and a lot of very complicated combination of like indigenous spiritual beliefs and you know, Spanish Catholicism. And so there's just a lot of really interesting stuff going on with her, but she definitely is a lot more about the cycle, about being the pivot point of the cycle, but a lot of people picture her as like this angel of death who is like super punk rock and kind of two-dimensional, and she like hangs out with cigarettes and is like, I'm taking your soul. And that, like, that's how she's portrayed a lot. And I'm like, she's not like a reaper, a smoking reaper. But that's how she's portrayed so much. So I like that about this deck, that I feel like it's really respectful to the culture and like the actual history, despite the artist being from Rome, born and raised, and not being Mexican at all.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Surprised me. I learned that later, but the imagery is so dead on and so accurate and respectful to the entire history of Mexico. There's both Mayan and Aztec imagery in this deck, and they're not portrayed as a monolith, which was very important to me. And also there's so much, from various wars, from contemporary, from 100 years ago, 700 years ago, all of that. And it's so respectfully and accurately put together that I assumed that the artist was Mexican, but he's not. He's from Rome.
Wow, I would not have guessed that at all.
In a million years, except for the relationship with the color red. That would have tipped me off. But
Bandit Blue has a tarot question, and if folks have tarot questions, feel free to throw them in chat. We're happy to answer them for you. Bandit Blue asks, is it true that a tarot deck must be gifted? Do you have thoughts on that?
I think that's true if you want it to be true. I think that that's a popular school of thought, and for some people, the energy of having a deck lovingly passed from one person to another is such a part of the connection with that deck and the ritual of that deck and the tradition behind tarot. It's certainly a tradition for a number of different families of practice. I don't personally practice that. For me, if a deck calls to me, I'll buy it myself. And frankly, for myself, I'd rather buy my own deck than be given one by someone else when I'm not 100% sure what it's been through or where the energy has been, et cetera, et cetera. I'd rather start from scratch with a new puppy than take one and have no idea. That's not referring to actual puppies. I do believe in adoption, from shelters and all that. That was not a perfect metaphor. But I mean, I like to start fresh rather than not knowing the history.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's popular practice.
Yeah, I really enjoy collecting tarot decks, and if I had to wait for people to gift them to me, I don't know what I would do. But I don't think that I agree with what Friday says, where if it's something that would be really important and meaningful to you, then you can totally take part in that tradition, but I don't think it has to be the case. I will say I do like collecting a lot of tarot decks, and a lot of the times I will get one and it's beautiful art, but it doesn't necessarily resonate with me for what particular reason, and a lot of times I feel like I got this deck to gift to somebody. So I like gifting decks, especially when I find one that feels like it resonates perfectly with someone else.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good point. I have certainly gifted decks. I have one right now that I'm like looking to gift to somebody if anyone's interested in the Queers and Queens tarot deck, which is beautiful, but doesn't speak to me. Like, that's one I'm looking to find a new home for. And I think 2 or 3 of mine were gifts from my sister that she saw and thought that they reminded her of me, and she just sent them to me. So the Edward Gorey weirdo tarot deck is from my sister, and I thought that one of my other ones was, but now I'm not 100% sure. But my original deck is one that my sister and I bought together and worked with together, and then it didn't speak to her as much as it spoke to me, so it kind of just came over to me. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Duchess Capra says, this reminded me, I have a deck I got years ago called Tarot of the Dead that's all skeletons except for Death, which is a living pregnant woman. Kind of reminds me of your deck. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that concept of the inverse, that shift in perspective. Yeah, I do like that one a lot.
Jules,
the Marigold. Hey,
yeah, don't you have that one?
Right here. I was just reading it this afternoon. I love the Marigold Tarot deck. It's so beautiful, and the artist is such a fascinating creature and just continues to make stunning art, and has just released a bunch of pinned patches and stickers on her website. I just learned that today. Oh, no.
Danger.
Danger.
Oh, Bandit Blue, thanks for following.
Yay, good. love friends. The Hanged Man in the Marigold Tarot. There it is. I don't know if this is a little dim because her art in this deck, it's all white and gold. Whoop,
Is
on
it
black.
foiled?
No, it's not. It's actually fairly matte. My light is a little funky in here, and it's a difficult one to get good light on too, because it's so thin white lines on black and then gold. So it's a little bit hard to find good lighting on video. But like the Magician card here really speaks to me big time.
Ooh. How much?
Actually,
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say this one reminded me of the Dark Tower. There's like Walter the Man in Black, who's like a creepy magician bro. And the first time I saw this, I was like, this is what I imagined that character in the Dark Tower to look like. Yeah.
I was going to ask how closely that deck follows the Rider-Waite tradition, because those two particular cards you drew remind me of Rider-Waite.
Very much. Yeah, absolutely. The Devil card here is very much the snake around the neck and the like holding, almost spooning. It's the dangerous temptation card. The lovers looking into each other's eyes, holding each other's hands, being very, very close with one another. A lot of this is flower symbolism. So when we get into things like the Four of Swords, you know, when we get into the minor arcana, it's a little more you kind of need to have a relationship with flowers and like sacred geometry. But the the cups are all skulls. Yeah.
The art is beautiful.
Just stunning. But yeah, a lot of it. So the artist, she was very, very careful about which plants she picked for which cards, and so a lot of it is in the plant knowledge. This one, the Chariot, is probably my favorite chariot of all time.
Oh, is that a skeleton on a unicycle?
It's a bicycle. It's
okay.
Yeah. But it is absolutely riding a bike.
Yeah.
Rolling on through.
That's awesome.
It cracked me up when I first saw it.
Unicycle would have been a little bit extra. But a bicycle, pretty absurd. Ooh, Jules Verne says the Chariot in the deck is my all-time favorite card.
Yeah, exactly. The freaking bicycle. So good.
Banded Blue says something I think like actually pretty important. I literally have the Spencer's brand tarot cards from Spencer's. I felt like a bit of a fraud, but then I realized it's not the deck per se, but the intent and energy behind the deck, and I've come to really like it.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. That reminds me of what's that deck you have where like the little booklet is almost sort of making fun of tarot? The Gorey.
The Edward Gorey one, the Fantod pack. Where the cards are already it's definitely an oracle deck. So we've got cards like the Burning Head, the Blue Dog, etc. And the little booklet has things like the Effigy, August, a sexual problem, assailed honor, unpleasant secrets, amnesia, broken hopes, a misalliance, rashness, yaws, clouded mentality, abrasions, financial losses, and an accident in a stadium. And that's the entire every card.
Those words individually make sense.
It's just totally silly. I love that. It's a very tongue-in-cheek deck. I found two things that I was mentioning earlier. To do with the Santa Muerte, about the distinction between the Two of Cups and the Lovers. Yeah. In this deck, I particularly love that because the Two of Cups is portrayed as this super mutually feeding closeness, with the water pouring from one head into another, and then the hand going under the rib cage to touch the heart. It's the very like wrapped up in each other. Yeah. Cyclical. And typically I see that kind of completely absorbed in each other cyclical energy in the Lovers card more. Here, the lovers aren't even looking at each other, but they're solving a puzzle together. So they've got their Corazon Sagrada it's not lit red yet, and they've got their floating key in the sky, and I feel like she's looking at the mechanism and he's looking toward a solution, but they both have their hands on the heart and they're team working it. And I don't see that often. I usually see the lovers portrayed as completely absorbed in each other. And so I really enjoyed seeing seeing the lovers as partners. I thought that was really wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I'll share mine. I'd love your insights on it too. So this is the Two of Cups, which I've shown on the stream before. Let me see if I can hold this in such a way that it'll focus. Close enough. So the Two of Cups, it's kind of got that same thing that yours did, where the water is pouring into one stream. The Lovers it's like very similar in that it's got like an abundance of florals, but this one has like, instead of the two ducks, two little dragonflies, which feels like there's like an energy there with the dragonflies. I can just imagine them flitting about with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I like that there are two dragonflies flitting about one central, what it looks like a stalk, or like flowers wrapped around something, a pillar.
Yeah, like morning glories, like vines climbing up a pillar of some sort.
Yeah, so I like that they're both, the lovers.
It's like there's an intertwining.
Yeah, like they're sharing one life, one central core, and the ducks there seem like it's more of an intentional choosing to begin the path toward partnership. So I like that it's two distinct things that are making a choice to be one thing, and the lovers are two of the same breed, different colors, two different people around a shared life core. I think that's very nice.
Oh, Secretly Grander, thanks for joining us and joining our craft as well. I don't know if you have access to the Discord, but Rin posted in the Wildwood deck, the Two of Cups and the Forest Lovers, or Two of Vessels and the Forest Lovers, and they really are almost exactly the same card. The Forest Lovers has a couple. They look like they've done, I'm totally blanking. When you get married and you like literally tie a knot. Yeah, it looks like they've hand fasted, and they're on either side of a tree. There are it looks like calla lilies along the ground, and it's a very symmetrical card. The Two of Vessels, also super symmetrical. They have hands raised on one side, and their hands are down on the other side, both pouring water into these cups. And there's like a heart on fire in between them. I should also mention they have animal heads rather than people heads.
What kind of animals?
It looks like, is she? The femme looks like she's represented by a horse. And the more masculine figure is represented by a stag head. But they have human bodies.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'll have to go look at that later. I'm in an unfortunate connection kind of place in my life with technology, so I'd have to go look at it on the device on which I'm speaking. But yeah, that's super cool. I love that. And I feel like I have dragonfly lovers as well in another deck. But yeah, a horse and a stag. Oh, hey, yes, love it. Like, Jess is always on the ball with posting links to everything. Yeah. Oh,
Chrysican, good night. Thanks for joining us. See if I can finish off the rest of my tea as we wind down tonight.
I just drank an entire liter of
Oh my gosh, you drank that whole thing. Oh, I guess I drank my whole teapot, so pot, kettle, whatever.
Oh, Teacup brought me the Two of Vessels.
Oh, thanks, Teacup. Yeah.
Delivery service for Wildwood cards. Oh, that's stunning.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It has a lot of energy in that one.
Yeah, they're side by side.
Yeah. Yay, and now we can show them on stream too.
Excellent. Thank you, Teacup. Yeah. Teacup is on it. That's awesome. I like that.
Dusty loves the Wildwood deck too. I will never not be totally in love with that deck, he says in chat.
Yep. That's a good one.
Friday, are you still planning on doing your tea and tarot stream later tonight, or are we just doing our combined streams today?
Just doing our combined streams tonight. I have been just nonstop at work, and I'm quite tired, so I think I'm just gonna hang out with you tonight, and then I'm gonna go be quiet in my bedroom.
Yeah, I think you deserve some recharge time.
It sounds really, really good. I wrote on my hand calendar for Saturday, go outside, and I blocked off the entire day.
Sometimes you have to do that to make yourself do the thing.
Yeah, oh, I thought I had dragonflies for the lovers in this God, another dark art deck.
Oh,
It's actually
seahorses.
seahorses. Yeah,
Don't
and then
seahorses, like, aren't they paired for life?
yes,
Oh,
and
penguins
then
too also
penguins are
are.
the tulips.
Oh,
And
wow.
the color schemes even are really
I
just right there,
love those
Lisa.
jewel tones.
So much. This is the Orion's Tarot. It is unbelievably beautiful. Australian artists are about to release a new edition that's like a mini version where the cards are half the size. And I just saw the star in here that is so you. it just screams. It's so good. And this is the deck where all the pentacles are indeed pentacles except for the 3, which for some reason is Stars of David.
Oh, yeah, and we
no
were like,
idea.
why?
I don't know why.
What a weird detail to just not even mention
intrigued.
or...
No mention. Anywhere. No mention of it. So I feel like I need to just actually suck it up and DM the artist on Instagram and say, hi, I'm so intrigued by this choice. What's up? Why did you do this?
Please tell me.
Cool. Please tell me. Yes, I have to find, where did I put that? I sorted everything into like 50 stacks here, but none of them are actually sorted so much as they just ended up there. But there's somewhere in here the star, and it is too beautiful for you not to see. So I'm holding you captive so I can show you this one card.
Yeah. I'm just smelling this sage leaf.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, where are you? Oh, here's the hanged one in this deck.
Oh, interesting. Is it like a tumbling bird?
I believe it's hanging from, there are a lot of threads.
Oh, I don't, yeah.
It's tangled in. It's just very, very fine detail, so it's like impossible to see. But it's tangled in a bunch of threads. It seems to be stuck there. The star.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I love this deck.
Beautiful. Oh, so pretty. All the colors are so lush and very dark, and then here and there you get one that's like super bright.
Oh, whoa.
But there's only like 2 or 3 that are bright.
What a friendly little buddy.
It's a super friendly little buddy. So yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And I love it. Oh yeah, the sun is extremely bright. It's a capybara that seems to have a triple moon subtly on its own side though. So I like that.
Oh, interesting. Dame Hex says, the Hanged Man in Wildwood is the mirror.
That makes me uncomfortable.
Really?
Yeah, I don't, Lisa, I don't like people looking at me too much, and I don't like looking at myself too much. And so fun Friday fact, my first career was actually as a professional jazz vocalist. I used to sing at a club in Belltown. That was my first job, and I did that for 6 years. And I quit because I was having a particularly anxious year. And being so on stage and having people stare at me so much was just unacceptable. And more than that, when I sing, I cannot hold like any of my personal self back. It's too vulnerable. I feel like every single thing that I'm feeling is completely exposed, and I just could not handle that at that time. So I just quit. I just quit.
Wow.
I left 6
Just too
years
much.
worth of charts at the club and never went back for them. So I lost 6 years worth of work on my music, and I just never went back. Just couldn't do it.
Wow. Well, then I understand the mirror being uncomfortable, but I was like, oh, that's so good, because that is the deck that Dusty uses. And so that makes sense to me that he associates the Hanged Man with a change in perspective. Because a mirror, you're looking at the same things, but there's that shift. Everything's flipped.
Yeah, I like that.
Kind of instead of the man literally being upside down.
Yeah. Either way still makes me uncomfortable.
We will move along then. Move along. Well, we're coming up on 7. So I'm wondering if we what would be like a good sort of final word for us to talk about for Tarot Tuesday, and also maybe show off again our crafts.
Yes.
Here's mine.
I love yours with the amethyst and the sage around it.
I'm really happy with it.
Amazing.
It smells
beautiful
amazing.
Pop of like purple and green against the black yarn.
Yeah,
I think
pretty. This one I definitely am missing the like things woven in. It just feels like the deep dark hole to me. So I like that I've brightened this one up a lot.
Yeah, the deep dark hole web that you made there, speaks to me so intensely. I'm like, I need to make one like that, that's sort of loosely structured, because it screams to me to have iron things woven into it. And I don't work a lot with iron at all, but it's like, that's why I said like a hand hewn like coffin nail and keys. I keep thinking about keys, just things that are made of iron that are kind of that shape. Just that's every time I see that one on your screen, I'm just like, that's what goes there.
Would you use like iron nails, or like the iron spikes that are used in like railroads or something as like the sticks, or would you weave them in?
Well, for that style, I would weave them in. I'd use small iron things
I
and
guess it'd
have
be
them
really
hanging
heavy
on.
otherwise.
It sure would be. Yeah. If you're really committed to using railroad spikes as your as your crosses, I mean, more power to you. Yeah, mine is so pleasantly smelly because I put all that jasmine tea perfume on it,
Mm-hmm.
and also the marigold stalks themselves are quite pungent in a really pleasant, gardeny, buttery kind of way, and the rosemary is very strong. So mine is so much more hitting me in a sense of smell than anything else right now. But I just really like my little kind of strange spider web buddy. I think that's going to be a very nice little Danielle memento for my ofrenda this year. That I can look at it and think about my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hadn't
that's
thought
so
about.
good.
I do have some perfume oils, so I might find some of my Bee Pal oils and anoint the
Mm-hmm.
ends because I really liked that intention of like radiating energy out.
That's what it feels like little light beams of intention going out all the sides and just ad infinitum. That's
Um,
wonderful.
so normally around this time, I would be tossing over to Friday's channel to do a Tea and Tarot Tuesday raid. But since we combined forces today, for I know you did a little bit of introduction at the beginning, but do you want to do like a little outro since you're the guest?
Hi, I'm Friday. I'm leaving. That's a terrible outro. Thank you so much for having me, Lysa. It was so lovely to come and do a craft with a friend. Like, what a nice way to mix this up. And yeah, I'll be back on my channel doing my morning tea meditation. If people want to continue the friendship party over there, I do that at 7 a.m. PST. Every weekday. So that's a nice place to kind of see each other some more and interact more in the chat. It's a very social group. And this has been just so nice to have a little additional taste of that this week over here in this friendship group. Thank you so much.
Yay. Jess has got the link to your channel in the chat for folks watching live right now. If you're watching the VOD, go check out Friday Afternoon Tea on Twitch and follow Friday's channel. And then join us join the early birds for morning meditation. I joined once and I was really grumpy about it, but it was really lovely despite being grumpy.
It was nice to have you there. I feel like that was the same day that then I went and did a weird evening plant class where I smushed berries in my armpit.
Oh, yeah.
Same day.
I was like, Friday, what are you streaming?
Don't roll on my channel. I get real weird with plants.
All right. Thank you, everyone in chat, for joining us. I will be on TK's channel. TK has joined the fray on Twitch, 5 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow, and we're going to be playing a spooky game. So be prepared for me to scream periodically.
What game is it?
I forget what it's called, but it's about you're playing like a housewife, but your house has been invaded by Cthulhu. I think you're like a 50s housewife, but your house has been invaded by Cthulhu and you have to like get rid of him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll see how spooky it is. I don't do well with spooky things. So it should be lively, at least. All right, everybody. Be well tonight, and see you later this week. Bye, everyone.